at a bad spot. As Jeff Jones said on our show several weeks ago, sitting here he was on Skype when we had him as a guest, and he said Tony Bennett's timing of retiring was horrible for the program in terms of where it left things. And certainly Ron Sanchez has been the benefactor of.
He's fallen on the sword.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. If Tony Bennett were still the head coach, I'm not sure that their record would be much better than it is right now. I think probably 2 or 3 more wins, but they would not be 500 right now, or over. Well, maybe a little over 500.
Which wins do you think would have gone in a different direction?
I'd have to go back and look, but a few of the closer games, I think they would have won.
SMU at home was one that stood out to me.
Yeah, no question that's one that would have been.
There's some shaky decision making down the stretch against the ponies at the JPJ.
Yeah, no question. There were a couple others that they probably could have won. Probably none of those against the top 25 teams. Maybe the Memphis game, because they fell apart down the stretch there when they were pressed. Didn't do a very good job of handling that. I think Tony would have had them a little better prepared or been able to adjust to it. But you hear about it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes. And I think this team, if they can keep them together for another year or two, I think this team will eventually be a pretty good basketball team if they add the right parts. They need to get a quality point guard. They need to get another shutdown defender. They need a rim protector. And another scorer wouldn't hurt. But those are some things that are setting this team and this program back right now, is a lack of the people in those roles that we were accustomed to seeing under Tony Bennett.
I read on JerryRatcliffe.com, the grapevine is that Virginia has put out feelers to Marquette's Shaka Smart, Gonzaga's Mark Few, VCU's Ryan Odom, and the head coach of Furman. Those are 3 or 4 of those names are heavy hitters. 2 of the 4 are some of the best in the business.
Yeah, they are. And again, it's the grapevine, so you don't know how reliable that is, but those are the whispers we're hearing out there. And before I forget, Ralph Sampson wants to be on the show next week to talk about where Virginia is right now.
Love to have Ralph. Can we promo that he's going to be here?
Yeah, I think so. He said lock it down. So
big Ralph Sampson on the show next Tuesday.
Yeah, Ralph's always a welcome guest. And
the only guy that I've ever seen come out of our studio in downtown Charlottesville and legitimately stop traffic. Ralph Sampson parked in front of the studio in a very nice Mercedes-Benz, walks out the front door, and on both sides of Market Street in downtown Charlottesville, people got out of their car while the car was still on and blocked traffic to take selfies with the greatest basketball player in Virginia men's history.
Yeah, I think there was a city bus that stopped.
A city bus was blaring the horn behind the car that stopped. And Ralph, it was just like, this is every day.
It's just another day at the office for Ralph Sampson. It's not very often you have a Hall of Famer standing in the middle of your street outside your studio, that's for sure. But he'll be here next week to weigh in on what's going on, and we welcome that. But yeah, there's it's interesting. I'm assuming that some of these people on the unofficial committee that are feeling out some candidates will make a recommendation to Carla Williams, and it'll be her final call, I would imagine, being the AD, as to who they're going to hire, and assuming they can get someone that they want, and who knows? I mean, the ACC is not quite as attractive as it used to be with all.
Why is the ACC down, Hoodie?
Well,
Besides the coaching attrition.
Yeah, and that's one reason, because you had a lineup of Hall of Fame basketball coaches who are no longer involved with their programs, and you take that kind of coaching talent and wisdom and experience out of your league, it's going to make a difference. It's going to make an impact. I mean, we're talking about some of the greatest coaches that ever laced up basketball shoes, and that's one reason. But again, it's the Jimmies and the Joes, and I keep referring back to a podcast I did with Seth Greenberg more than 2 years ago. He was on his way to Auburn and was not feeling well. I didn't think we were even going to get him on the show, and he was gracious enough to stick it out on our program. And he was talking then about watch out for the SEC, because they are making major investments in basketball, and we're now seeing the fruit of that. And it's all from SEC football money. The SEC is so rich, and they have invested heavily in basketball. Their football was already somewhat spectacular, even though it didn't show up in the postseason this year like it normally has. But the SEC, I've said it a few times on the show, the SEC is the new ACC. They are getting the majority of great talent and a lot of really good coaches. They're a force to be reckoned with. I haven't looked at. I think the last time we did that, you checked out the top 25, and there was
like 12 of them,
chock full of SEC teams and not many ACC teams. So I think that's why. I think it's football money, and the ADs in that conference have done a really good job in making that a major sport. It used to be something that they just did between football and spring football, but now it's a pretty big deal in the SEC.
Rob Craig, thanks for watching the program. Logan Wells Claylow, hello. Jeremy Williams highlights 5 more years of Jeremy Wilson, 5 more years of Carla Williams is horrible for UVA, from Jeremy Wilson. Auburn 1. This is the coaches poll, folks. And this is as of Tuesday, January 21st. Auburn 1, Alabama 2, Florida 6, Tennessee 7, Kentucky 9. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the top 9. Unbelievable. Mississippi State in the 4-team slot. Texas A&M SEC?
Yep.
Texas A&M, 13th slot.
Plus Williams.
That's right. Old Williams, 16th slot. Ole Miss, 16th slot. I mean, it's just loaded with SEC, ladies and
Yeah, it
gentlemen.
used to be the ACC in those slots.
I mean, it's
How
absolutely
many
loaded.
ACC teams are in the top?
Oh, I mean, it's a rhetorical question from my friend over there, Hootie Rack. That's what they call in the business of softball right there.
Yeah.
Duke. We have Duke.
We have Duke.
With arguably the best player in the country.
Yeah, Cooper Flagg is phenomenal.
On the roster. A guy that's clearly an NBA basketball player playing in college basketball right now.
Absolutely.
Duke is 16-2 overall, and is right now the sole flag, waiver for the Atlantic Coast Conference. Let me ask you this: what is the role of the athletic director? And I'm going to say athletic directors plural, for returning the Atlantic Coast Conference basketball landscape back to prominence?
Wow. That's a tough question, and I don't know.
In conjunction with the commissioner.
Right. I mean, I don't know if it's a matter of NIL money in terms of luring players. I know that some of the guys that Tony Bennett was recruiting the last couple of years ended up in the SEC. And a lot of people thought it was NIL money. That's when Virginia didn't seem to be willing to spend a lot, but I think that's changed. I don't know if that's the bottom line or not. certainly, I think the ACC facilities are probably a little better. Coaching-wise, there's a lot of really good coaches in the SEC now. The ACC has lost some glitter there. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. The SEC has an incredibly strong commissioner. I'm not sure the ACC can say that at this point. I don't know. ACC has their own network, so that shouldn't be a disadvantage. I really don't know what the solution to the problem is. I don't know if it's just money or if it goes beyond that.
9 of the Southeastern Conference in the top 25 right now, with a couple others in receiving votes. To Hootie's point. And Kevin Yancey, good morning. Waynesboro's finest, got a TV station and local radio station watching us right now. It's just not the Atlantic Coast Conference of yesteryear. And
everybody's rosters used to be loaded with NBA players.
I mean, UNC and Duke would have a few. Miami was a perennial power with producing NBA talent. You'd get Clemson when a stretch where they had a handful of guys contending for Player of the Year and routinely drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at the Virginia roster. Is there an NBA player on the Virginia roster? Probably right now.
I would say probably not right now.
Probably not. I mean, your best athlete on that roster is probably Elijah Saunders, and he can stroke it, but let's cut to the chase. He's a tweener. What's his position?
Yeah.
He does not have the height to play the 3 or the 4, and I'm not sure he's enough of a scorer shooter to play the 2 in the NBA.
Right.
Or have the handles.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what is Elijah's position?
I would think he'd be a small forward, but
At what, 6'4", 6'5", with broad shoulders?
yeah.
And McNeely, and I love Isaac. I love Isaac. But he's proven, and it's even painful for me to say this, Hootie. There are times where he's proven to be a little bit of a liability. Because when Isaac McNeely is not scoring the basketball and knocking down the 3 ball and stretching defenses, if he's run off that line, defensively, there are times where he's looked shaky. And that's tough to say.
Yeah, I love Isaac McNeely as well, but it's tough. And when people gang up on him, it's tough because he can't create his own shot like a lot of three-point shooters can't. He's a catch-and-shoot guy and brilliant at doing so, but if he's smothered, there's not much he can do.
Is this the point of the season? Are we there yet? We may not be there yet, where you start playing the Sharmas and the Kofis and the Robinsons in a way to build inroads with them, to encourage them from hitting the transfer portal? From what I can tell, and this is just a man with a microphone, I'd say Day-Day Ames is going to be seduced by the transfer portal here. I'd say Isaac McNeely would be one of the most coveted 2 guards in college basketball. I mean, if you put a McNeely with a point guard that can score and a guy that can actually command the ball in the post with offensive acumen, McNeely could just stand behind the line, catch and shoot from downtown, and have 8 to 10 open 3-pointers a game, and he would be unbelievable in that role.
Well, we saw that when he had Kihei Clark.
Right. He would be unbelievable in that role. I see a lot of guys here that are going to be seduced by the portal, especially if big money's thrown their way.
That's possibly so, but I think it may be time to give some of these guys a little more court time. I've been very impressed with Sharma off the bench, and he started one game, but I think he can add some scoring punch to a team that desperately needs it. And Robinson has been he's been a pretty physical guy lately. I think he's getting a little bit better, and I've been blown away by Kofi all season long. I think if we're talking about somebody with NBA potential down the road, I think he could be that guy. I think all 3 of those guys probably, it wouldn't hurt to give them a little more playing time. especially with some winnable games coming up. They could add a little spark, maybe some scoring to a team that's had trouble doing so.
Show's on fire right now. Comments are coming in quick. J-Dubs, as a result of the stuff that's coming in, check out Facebook Messenger on your laptop over there. So you can help facilitate some of this discussion. Hugh Haynes, hello, welcome to the program. James Watson, the UVA graduate, is watching the show. With approximately 5 female athletic directors across 5 major conferences, I find it difficult not to believe that there are a lot of men who complain about Miss Williams unfairly. UVA continues to achieve in baseball, swimming, lacrosse, women's volleyball. UVA was only decent in the 90s. UVA basketball would be nowhere without Tony Bennett. Give these coaches and AD some support. Respect the comment. I would respectfully push back. Carla Williams did not hire Tony Bennett.
No.
In some ways, Carla Williams ran off Bronco Mendenhall. And these are facts here.
Precisely.
She hired Tony Elliott. Tony Elliott, the football coach, has got the least amount of wins over the last 3 years in college football, folks. I understand she's a great fundraiser, and I understand the non-revenue sports are doing well, but it's football and basketball that drives the revenue and drives fan base interest.
Yeah, I mean...
women's basketball is not doing great.
No, not really. It's nothing personal against Carla.
It's not personal at all.
She's a delightful person. It's just if you look at this from a business standpoint, she's the CEO of a major company, and that major company is having some real struggles right now. And ADs, it's rare for ADs in today's culture or atmosphere, whatever you want to call it, men or women, doesn't matter. And I wouldn't pick on her because she's a woman. I don't think that has anything to do with it. But it's rare for ADs to have a very long shelf life in college sports these days. They get run pretty quickly. They're the point person, and if football, particularly football, is flailing and unsuccessful, they usually are the ones that fall on the sword, rightfully or not. Basketball too, in some cases, but certainly for football. So that's just part of the job, and she knew that. I'm sure she's known that for years.
I'm with you. It doesn't matter if she's a man or woman, black, white, Puerto Rican, or Haitian here. The football team is 11-23 over their last 3 years, and 6-17 in conference play. The stadium at Scott Stadium, 25,000, 30,000 people is a good day for attendance. It's about performance for me. And the performance has been subpar, and then you sprinkle in what's happened with the basketball program over the last couple years, and you scratch your head.
I mean, you look around at pro sports, the general managers and some of those folks don't last very long if the team has a losing season. Couple losing seasons in a row, and hardly anybody survives that on the pro level, and that's starting to spread down into college athletics. And I mean, that's just part of the job. It's the same as a head football coach. They know that most likely at some point they're going to get fired, no matter what kind of season or career they've had. It's hard to sustain that excellence year after year after year, and we see it annually. A lot of people are on the chopping block every year, and it's the same thing with ADs. Virginia's been fortunate; they've only run off really one AD in the last 40 years. Most of them have left of their own volition. Another guy was kind of forced out, but I thought unrightfully so. But and we're talking about Coach Holland.
Right.
I think there was pressure put on him to leave.
I mean, Hootie, we can make a legitimate argument that Virginia athletics offers more grace and patience and empathy with their coaches and their administrators than just about any program in college athletics.
Yeah, I mean, you look back at Craig Littlepage's career, and what was he, AD for 16, was it 16 years?
I'll take a look at that.
That's unbelievable.
Unheard of.
That's unbelievable in today's college athletics scene. They just doesn't happen, and that shows you what kind of success he had in
16 years.
Yeah, 16 years. That's twice as long as most ADs are around anywhere. It's an unbelievable ride he had.
And Vanessa Parkhill responds to James Watson's comment. Vanessa Parkhill says, James Watson, counterpoint to your comment. If Carla Williams were a man, would she be getting more heat giving the performance of the two biggest programs? AD manages the programs, period. So she's pushing back on what James said.
That's a very good point she makes.
Yeah. James then says, 3 guys lost their lives on the football team, and basketball lost one of the greatest UVA coaches of all time. And when did UVA put together 3 decent football seasons since Welsh or before?
Well, Bronco had 3 pretty decent seasons, and they were bowl eligible almost every year of his career, if I recall. They didn't go because of COVID a couple of times.
Bronco had a run of 8-5, 9-5, and 5-5. That's 3 pretty good years right there. And then he finished at 6-6.
Yeah, and they were bowl eligible all 4 of those years. That's just a fact.
I understand the frustration from the fan base. I will say this. If folks think the heat is hot now on the AD and the athletic department, watch what happens if the football team struggles.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't finish at least 6-6 next year, it could get really ugly.
It could get really ugly. And it's a football team that is loaded with talent. So it's not going to be a talent issue. The issue with this football team is, can you assimilate that talent with 0 experience within the program?
Yeah, I mean, they really don't have any more excuses. They've done well in the transfer portal. They've got some pretty good players coming back. They lost a lot of good players, but they seem to have replaced a lot of them. Maybe upgraded in some spots, and they have the football facility well under that they've had going for them since last spring or whatever now. So I remember a couple of boosters walking around in that building the day that they opened it for us, and just was sitting in on a conversation, and a couple of them just looked at each other and said, "No more excuses." And so that's what it is.
It is a lot of people commenting here on the athletic department and the athletic director here. What was Ralph Sampson's on the program next week, ladies and gentlemen? The greatest men's basketball player of all time, Ralph Sampson, in studio here on the Jerry and Jerry Show. What was some of the feedback he gave you?
Well, I think he was personally happy that Carla was retained. I don't know what kind of relationship they may have, but I think he's concerned about the basketball program. It's one of his first loves, having been, like you said, the greatest player that ever wore a uniform here. Took the program to places that it had never been, and still to some places that it hasn't been for the sustained period that he was here. I just think he's concerned about the future of the program, and if Ron Sanchez can't turn it around, and they do have to make a replacement, they can't get it wrong. I think this is a program now that it competed with the Blue Bloods in the ACC when North Carolina and Duke were at the top of the college basketball world, and Virginia held its own with them for a number of years. What did Tony have, 6 ACC regular season titles? That's almost unheard of. They can't afford to miss. They can't strike out with this next hire if it comes to that. They just can't do that. If it would set the program back, Lord knows how far.
Comments are coming in very quickly here. Boston College tonight. James highlights this, and I have tremendous respect for James. The guy knows the athletic department inside and out. He bleeds orange and blue. He goes to football games, men's basketball games, women's basketball games. He goes to all the games. James is a true fan, thick and through. He says, this football team has lost to Virginia Tech too many times since Welsh. Bronco did beat them one time, but I won't forget the pass to the offensive lineman in that one Virginia Tech game. I won't forget that either. That was a horrendous play call.
It's the worst play call that I've seen in my 40-plus year career.
Yeah.
By anybody. That tells you how bad that
was. That was Robert Anai's call.
Yes, it was.
That was Robert Anai, and from there, did he go to Syracuse and then NC State?
Yeah, and he's unemployed right now.
He's currently unemployed. Yeah, the NC State experiment imploded for Robert Anai. That was a terrible play call. So a lot of frustrated fans here.
And we're not ripping James. I mean,
I'm definitely not. I love the man. Yeah.
Yeah. I respect his opinion on all that, and I just think we got to realize that the climate we're in college athletics is that the AD is the person responsible for.
Well, she hired Tony Elliott.
Yeah, absolutely.
She extended the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator when the team was struggling.
Yes.
She did so despite the stadium being more than half empty all the time, despite having the worst record in college football over the last 3 years. And a lot of fans point to the patience that should be afforded to the football program because of the murder of the 3 guys, 3 football players.
Absolutely.
Terrible tragedy.
Absolutely.
Right? And grace should be afforded and allocated.
Right.
But we're now in year 4. And this is the major revenue generator and fan generator for the department. And it's especially concerning when the basketball team has shown signs over the last 4 or 5, since the national championship, since 2019, a national championship, the basketball team has shown signs of decline each year. To the point now they're 8-10.
Yeah. And it's, I guess everybody knew that was a possibility coming in. I thought this team would be better.
Me too. We thought TJ Power would be better. We thought the backcourt would be significantly deeper with Worley, the 6'7" point guard that could play lights out defense on the roster. We thought the front court would look completely different. We thought Christian Bliss could be playing.
Yep.
I thought it would be a better version of Day-Day Ames.
Yep.
I mean, it's. I don't know if it was a miss on the transfer portal, but there is not a guy on this team that is a scary offensive threat.
Not under the current circumstances, it's not, because again, McNeely could be that guy, but when he's the only one who's a lethal weapon and the other teams are taking that away from you, then it takes away his effectiveness. But yeah, I really thought this team would be better. I thought they would be top 6 in the league, and it just hasn't panned out that way. Of course, we didn't know that Tony Bennett was going to be gone either when we made those predictions. And you just don't lose a Hall of Fame coach and expect things to run as smoothly as they would otherwise.
Rob Craig, Coach Bennett dominated home and away North Carolina. That's absolutely amazing. Rob Craig sits. Is it press? I mean, Rob Craig is running. Is it the clock at the men's basketball games?
I think so.
Yeah. Is it Rob? Are you running the clock, the shot clock, the game clock? Let us know what you're running over there. And James says, I'm not causing an argument or anything, but how does the basketball team performance reflect on the athletic director for this particular season?
Well, other than the fact that she's the head of the department, it doesn't. I mean, she doesn't coach the team, obviously, and she was put in a tough spot with the timing of, I mean, she couldn't hire another coach at that point. It was too late in the season, so her hands were tied with that. So, yeah, I don't blame her for that, but she's the head of the department, and that's just the way it is. I mean, there's probably a lot of GMs in the NFL right now are going to be looking for jobs because they didn't coach the team, but I mean, somebody's got to go.
I mean, that's like saying
That's just the way it is.
That's like saying if the economy's down, why should that be put on the president's shoulders? Or if a football program like Seattle had significant injuries and guys on IR, how's that the fault of the coaching team, the coaching staff, or the general manager? It just is.
It's just the way.
It's just the way it goes. It comes with the nature of $1.4 million in annual compensation, up to $1.7 million in potential earning with bonus structure. It's not a fair. Life ain't fair. Certainly not when you're making that kind of money. But that's why you make that kind of money.
Yeah, there are expectations.
Right. Bill McChesney watching the program. Show's on fire right now. Let's go to Mark Brown. Why did Carla get a 29% raise? Who do you answer that early in the show? It's to bring the athletic director up to compensation standards in the Atlantic Coast Conference. He also says, how much of a say will she have on the new basketball coach? And Philip has a segue to that. Will Ralph and Barry Parkhill and Wally Walker and some of the other guys help hire a new basketball coach?
Well, she will hire the new basketball coach. I mean, she's the AD. She has the final call, I believe, on that. Certainly they have to get approval by the BOV and president, but I would think they would take her recommendation. I would imagine she's seeking input from some of these former guys who have a good ear on the game and very watchful as to what's going on in college basketball out there. Some people even beyond that, from what I understand, are on the lookout and maybe making some contacts with people, feeling out people. They may give her a stronger recommendation, and she may have asked them to help out in a potential search, because, I mean, if things don't change, I can't imagine that they're going to keep the current coach. He's interim for a reason, and regardless of how great a guy is, if they can't turn it around and they fail to make the ACC tournament, I can't see them staying status quo. It's just the way. It's just too much on the line.
Rob highlights his position at the games. He is the media timeout coordinator, shot clock, game clock, scoreboard manager, depending on what is needed. He rotates wherever he is needed. He's a diehard UVA fan. He follows it closely, Rob. We appreciate when you watch the show.
It's an important job.
Absolutely. Wahoo89 on YouTube from Tennessee. Do we have any shot at getting Chance Mallory to recommit? That's the St. Anne's Belfield Academy, the Charlottesville product, who decommitted after the Tony Bennett news. And Chitter Chatter has him considering Maryland.
Yeah, I haven't kept up with Chance much after he decommitted. Imagine that should they make a coaching change, or even if they don't, I imagine Ron and Jason and some of those guys are still trying to court him. And if they do make a coaching change, I would think the new head coach would certainly go after him and try to convince him to stay home. I had a great interview with Chance shortly after he committed, and his one of his main reasons was to play for Tony Bennett. So that option obviously is not there. So I don't know what he's thinking. He's certainly going to be. A lot of people are going to be in pursuit of him. There's no question, because he's a really good basketball.
He's a baller. He's a baller. Man, I am so many comments right here from the fan base.
We should mention that in tonight's game that Donald Hand Jr., the son of former Virginia point guard Donald Hand, is arguably Boston College's best player, averaging about 15 points a game.
Yeah, and guys, that line, the Boston College line, is moving. Before the game, it opened up at 8.5. I'm seeing it at some betting sites at 7. Now back to 8 on ESPN. So there's a lot of action being placed on this Boston College Virginia matchup. 9-9 Eagles, 1-6 in conference play. 8-10 Virginia, 1-6 in conference play. Donald Hand Jr., 14-7 a game, 6.8 rebounds a game. So this guy is a Virginia. He's got some orange and blue in him, but he's lacing them up for the Boston College Eagles tonight. What has to happen for Virginia to get the win?
Well, I think they have to play kind of like they did in some of their best halves of late, and the fact they can't turn it over, and they have to do a little bit better on the boards and play better defense. Their defense has not been very good of late. It's hard to explain, other than the fact that it's the pack line, and a lot of these players had never played any pack line before they got here. It takes time to get that down, but they've got to play some pretty solid defense and try not to turn the ball over, protect the ball. And I think if they do that, they can play with a lot of ACC teams, but they've got to find a way to generate some points. They're just not scoring enough points to win many ACC contests right now.
I'll put this in perspective based on the point that Hootie's made. Let's just go by minutes played. Elijah Saunders is third in minutes played at 29 a game. Andrew Rohde is barely in his second season. He's second in minutes played at 30 a game. Day-Day Ames, fourth in minutes played. He's half a season in. Jacob Kofi, a first year, half a season in. Blake Buchanan, a season and a half.
Yep.
Sharma, half a season in. TJ Power, half a season in. You wonder why this team is struggling with the pack line. The large portion of the minutes that are being played this year are being played by guys that have less than 2 years in the program. And I will ask the fan base this question. What is Virginia basketball's identity this year? Historically, the identity has been hold you under 60 a game, hold you under 55 a game, under 50 a game, milk the clock, control possessions, high percentage shots, shoot with single digits left on the shot clock. What is the identity for this team? It's hard to pinpoint a brand for Virginia basketball this year. And I'll tell you, this is they're all critically important from here on out. I mean, when you're 1-6 in conference play, and the last 3 teams in the ACC do not make the tournament, everything has to be won, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the next 6 games are absolutely winnable against the bottom half of the league. So they have a chance to get well. But you're right, this team really doesn't have an identity, and that's the first time you can say that in 15 years.
Virginia's 1-6. The Hurricanes are 0-7. Both of them had coaching changes, and both of them are dead last in the conference. Think about that, folks. Segue to football. News and notes, anything you want to highlight from the football team?
Things are kind of slowed down there for the time being, so I don't think we'll hear much about that until later on. I just don't see a lot of movement there now that the flurry of the transfer portal is slowed down at this point. But I don't think we'll see a whole lot of news out of football for a few weeks.
This football team has got, I can't believe I'm saying this, handful, 5 weeks away, 6 weeks away from the spring game. Nah, probably about 8 or 9 weeks away from the spring
Yeah,
game.
it's usually around the third week in April.
Third week of April, so maybe longer than that. So maybe that'll be the next buzz we hear from Virginia football with the spring game. Hootie Ratcliffe, some keys to the game and some closing thoughts for Virginia against the Eagles.
Well, again, I think it's got to be about the defense. They haven't played very good defense of late, and they have for a while there. They were doing a pretty good job of not turning the ball over until the second half of Louisville last Saturday, and they turned it over a lot, and it turned into a blowout.
And Louisville's a really good team.
Yeah, Louisville has, and that just showed. Excuse me, that
The
just shows
turnaround.
you how you can turn things around pretty quickly in college basketball if you got the right guy in the head coaching seat, and you go out and you spend some money in the portal. You can get it done. It's happening all the time in basketball. Not as quickly in football, although it's possible. But yeah, I think they just got to take care of the basketball and play defense. I don't know that sometimes they can still lose on the boards, and if they're shooting the ball fairly well, it won't matter. But they've just got to find a way to generate some more points. They're just not scoring enough to win a lot of ACC games, and there's just not a lot of consistency from some of their players in terms of offense.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, if you want anything Virginia-related, JerryRatcliffe.com, JerryRatcliffe.com for everything Virginia-related. That Boston College matchup is going to have some great commentary and some great perspective on Hootie's namesake website. It's 7 o'clock tip at the John Paul Jones Arena, and that line is moving up and down, so some action is coming on this game. We'll certainly talk about it on the Jerry and Jerry Show, and we'll follow his website tomorrow, as Virginia is in a must-win scenario from here on out. Judah Wickower behind the camera, Hootie Ratcliffe, the star of our show, the Virginia Sports Hall of Famer. We didn't get to every comment. We apologize, but we appreciate you watching and listening and sharing the program. The I Love CVille show is up at 12:30. So long, everybody.